Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Welcome back, friends. Today we're sitting with a guest that was somewhat last minute that I can't believe just fell into my hands, so I'm stoked. This guest isn't from LA either, so we're both out here. He's been here for a while, though, so he's a little bit established, knows a whole bunch of people, and has done a whole bunch of projects. He's a creative director. Does a lot of photo work, does a bunch of music videos that everyone's seen that probably just doesn't know is him. So welcome to the show. Is it Monsee?
Monsee, yeah.
Monsee World? That's what it is on the Instagram, right?
Yeah, it's my Instagram handle, Monsee World.
What's your last name?
I don't put my last name
Oh, word. See, it's
Yeah,
the mysterious type.
My parents, they made my first name so complex, like we just get through that part and leave it there.
Dude, see, I'm stuck with Chris Johnson. Like, I can't
cool,
possibly be the most famous Chris Johnson. Like, if you search Chris Johnson, there's no way I'm going to be the one that pops up, kind of regardless of what I do.
It rolls off the tongue nice, though, bro. It's good for marketing.
yeah, it definitely works. So, in your own words, who are you and what are you passionate about?
Well, my name is Monsee. I am a creative director. Basically, I'm just a visionary. Anything you can see, I'm willing to create it. Do a lot of music videos, do a lot of photography, and started in graphic design and illustration.
Dude, so you're from the East Coast.
Yeah.
Right? We were talking about this a little bit off mic so I could like gather what it is that you do and where you're from, all that type of stuff. So you started with drawing. Would you start drawing? Like when I was growing up, all of us kids were drawing like Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon, that type of stuff. What did you start drawing?
Oh, man. So I think, so my mom honed in on it when I used to draw saber-toothed tigers all the time. Like
why saber-toothed tiger? I mean, they're cool, but why?
I've always been like heavy into animals. I always thought animals were super cool, like tigers, lions, hawks, and all of that. I wanted to be a fighter pilot at one point, so I used to love birds and jets and all that stuff.
Oh.
But yeah, saber-toothed tigers, and then in fourth grade they published it into a magazine. And then, and they were like
a little local thing?
It's like a little local magazine. And then my mom was like, okay, this kid's got something. So she just kept getting me sketch pads, and she was a realtor. She was an environmental scientist, but like as her part-time, she was a realtor.
Yeah.
So as she would go like touring houses and doing open houses, like she would just give me a sketch pad and be like, just draw while I drive around. So I sit in the back seat drawing like all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, having somebody like actually push you from that young of an age, like that's such a valuable growth time that most of us totally miss out on.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I started painting when I was 28.
Yeah.
Like it took that long for me to be like, you know what? I don't care if my artwork sucks.
Yeah.
And now I've been getting hired to paint murals and stuff.
Oh, that's tight.
But when I look at it, it's like my biggest regret, and I say there's regrets because whatever, your life goes the way it goes, but my biggest regret is not doing artwork when I was young.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine like how good could I potentially be right now. Instead, I'm faking it till I make it with my creations and people dig it, but I could be so much better if I started young.
Yeah.
So then how did art kind of go from like sketchpad stuff? You eventually got like Illustrator, which is like totally different, but like through school, were you taking all the different art classes? Did you get into painting and sculpting, or like how did it end up developing?
Side note, I actually wanted to play the drums, but one Christmas came around and my parents were like, all right, close your eyes, surprise, and it was a guitar. So like, drawing just ended up being the thing.
And then later on you got to work with Travis Parker.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to.
Which is cool. But I always wanted to actually be a drummer. Like, that was my thing of beating on the table at dinner and they're like, chill. But anyway, I started, basically I just used to sketch all the time. And then I think it was like in high school. Yeah, I think it was like sometime in high school, and like my teacher, he's like, hey man, you can take all of your drawings and you can scan them, and then you can like put them in this Photoshop and then like bring them to life even more. And then he just showed me that.
Yeah.
And then just kept pushing me to do it. So every time I'd come in, he's like, yo, let me see your drawing. Let's scan it. And they used to sit the whole class and just play with this Photoshop.
Yeah.
So he like pushed me. He pulled me out of all my other classes. So I didn't have to do like science and history. Although I like science, I've never been into history. I like the future. But yeah.
Talking about the future, I mean, that's like the perfect time to be getting into the next level of art.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, because back then, regardless of age, Photoshop still was like super new for a long period of time. It really hasn't become like the main thing that everyone uses until in very like recent years. Now everyone does.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? But
yeah.
you know, years ago that wasn't the case. So did you kind of adapt to doing the clicky mouse thing? Did you end up wanting to use a drawing pad and drawing directly, or did you always go paper, scanning, and then playing around?
It was basically like I would sketch it on a piece of paper, scan it, and then just sit there in Photoshop with a mouse. Like eventually, like the Wacom tablet came into play, but it was that after I learned like the ins and outs of Photoshop in general.
Sure. See, I had a print class when I was in high school. That was my favorite class.
Yeah.
It was Print Graphics 1 and 2, and basically we sat on Photoshop all the time. That's pretty much all we did, which I ended up using later in life. That was like a useful skill for business. And I have rudimentary skills.
Yeah.
They're not great, but I can do some basic stuff. But I remember we were making like little notepads and cereal boxes and T-shirts, and like I made mad bootleg skateboard T-shirts using Photoshop.
Yeah, that's tight.
What were some of the first things that you made?
Oh man. So I don't know. I always have like this infatuation for like, I guess being like a rebel in a sense. So I used to get in trouble like drawing stuff like marijuana leaves and like, like guys with the big forefinger rings with the dollar signs, and so I used to draw stuff like that. And like, my teachers would be like, what the hell? And then my dad was like, that's dope, so I'm gonna get you an airbrush. So he got me an airbrush, and then all his friends would like bring their motorcycle helmets over, and they're like, let little men paint on this old helmet. So like they took advantage of it in a different way.
So
Like
you learned how to do all the airbrush like T-shirt type work that people do, the bubble lettering and all that shit.
Yeah, I used to airbrush T-shirts, jean jackets, like motorcycle helmets.
Sure.
Yeah.
When did that eventually come to working for like a brand or music, or like what came next? Because obviously nowadays, or over the years, you really got heavy into working with musicians with things, cover art and all that type of stuff. But
I don't know. Honestly, I think like people just kind of knew that I always could just draw. Like even my first job, I worked as a bar back when I was 14 years old. I got a job as a bar assistant when I was 14, and like the restaurant was like, oh yeah, you draw, so they made me do a mural like in the restaurant.
Oh, cool.
Which was cool. And, so I've always been kind of known for it in a sense. I don't know. And then I guess going to college, and then got out of college, and people just kind of just.
Yeah, why'd you go to? So you went to college at for an art program, not necessarily art school, but a really good art program for like film, or what exactly did you go for?
So I went. I didn't know what I was going for. Like at the time, I was just my mom. She was a scientist, and my dad was an architect. So
go to college.
You know what I mean? They're like, you going to college? Like this is pretty simple. We don't care what you go for. You're going. Yeah. So I was like, all right. Well, I'm good at drawing, so I'm just gonna go art school. And I submitted my application, got in, blah blah, blah, and then.
How come you didn't just become like a graphic designer? Because that's like this almost seems like the standard go-to thing.
So basically with the art school, what they do like in the first year, it's kind of almost like doing pre-med, where they basically just bombard you with a bunch of different style of classes, and then whichever one you're into the most, then you have to apply to the actual school of that particular focus. So I went to art school first year, and then I applied for communication arts in actual digital imaging and video film animation. So I used to do like 3D animation and all that stuff, but those are my two major focuses.
Do you think that going to school was actually super beneficial? Because I always wonder with that, when it's like an evolving industry, that like, are the programs behind what the times are? Could you just learn all this stuff from YouTube, or was college like really beneficial?
I mean, talent-wise, college wasn't beneficial because I'd go to some of the classes, and they're like, well, you're advanced and you're making the other students feel like intimidated. So like, you just take the final exam this week, which would be like the first week of school or the semester, and then take that and then just get out and then don't come back. So like, I actually I would take a lot of credits in college, but I didn't have to go to the majority of my classes because of that reason. So for talent wise, I don't think college is not going to do anything if you're hyper talented, you know what I mean? But what I think college is good for is basically discipline. You know what I mean? Like teaching you how to be on time.
Yeah.
Like just teaching you just like ethic, teaching you how to work with people, work with clients,
professionalism.
delivering.
Yeah.
So it just develops like your professionalism, I think, like in a corporate world or just in general. It just teaches you etiquette.
Sure.
So I think it's good for that.
Do you think it would be better or equally as good if you just found a mentor that was in that field to work underneath?
No, because I don't think a mentor is supposed to dedicate their whole day to you every day for 4 years or 5 years or 17 years, however long it takes you to get out, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So you finished college, and then what'd you do right after college? Did you dip out to LA right away?
No, I didn't. Actually, I came out to LA like more recently.
Okay.
When I first got out of college, I started working prior to getting out of college. I actually had a job at the Smithsonian doing digital imaging, I think like my senior year of college. So I was doing digital imaging at the Smithsonian, like, you know, scanning in like these old ancient pieces of artwork and photos and just manipulating them in some way, shape, or form, or restoring old photos, all kinds of stuff. And then from there, I started working at the medical campus and doing like their like some of their animation, video stuff, or just like the medical field. So sometimes you see those commercials where it's like, hey, you know, you got pimples and now you don't. But, you know, it's like I would be the person that would like make the after.
Those are like drastically different things then, right? Because the restoring, that was what, mainly for their website?
It would be, well, websites, it would be for their websites. It would be for Smithsonian Magazine. I designed a lot of the displays that when you're walking through the museum and you'd see some of the imagery, like that. And like if you got Smithsonian, if you were a subscriber to Smithsonian Magazine, you'd see my work in there.
Sure.
Like, have you ever seen the Hope Diamond? Like there's that one famous picture of the Hope Diamond with the blue background and all that stuff. Like my supervisor was the one who actually took that photo. That one that it's in like all the science books. So he was the one who took that photo, and he's the guy who taught me like advanced Photoshop and how to really get in there and restore. Yeah.
Did you actually really enjoy that? Because that's a drastically different kind of artwork than you were doing before, right? I mean, it taught you different skills because it's a different kind of art, but did you find yourself quickly like, this just isn't what I wanted to be doing?
Honestly, I like anything that challenges me. So like it was something different in general. Like I liked it just because it was a challenge. And they would come in with stuff where they're like, here's this black and white photo, make it color. And move the guy from underneath the apple tree to the other side of the truck. And you're like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do that, but they need it and that's due tomorrow. So
I'll figure
it out, you know? So I like challenges, and that's why like, you know, I'm like heavy into wheeling right now because I got the bike and I was like, oh, I'm going to learn how to wheelie. If I have one of these, I'm tired of people like, yo, throw it up. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means, you know? So like, I'm going to learn how to wheelie. So,
dude, that's harder than it looks too. I got a little 7-speed bike and I'm like, try to do it. I can't do that. I have a pro BMX rider friend who could ride them forever. And there's a random guy in Eau Claire in my town that like, that's what he does is he rides around with like his big wheeled mountain, whatever they're called, and he'll go like blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks. Anyways, unrelated. So you did all this restoration stuff, which is a totally different style art than like doing the airbrushing type work and the early illustration drawing. Is just different, which makes you more well-rounded for sure. And then you go into doing animation stuff that's much more commercialized, right? So then how did it go from there? Because still, when you're doing this commercialized stuff, when I picture what I found out about you initially, very, like you said, creative visionary. Doesn't sound like Colgate commercial type work, right? Like, how did it develop from there?
I mean, basically, it's just an end result. So, like, if someone comes to you and they're like, we just want an end result. And there's that challenge in there where I'm going to figure it out. You know? So, it is.
So you were doing all that stuff for like the hospitals and stuff, but then what was the first like big creative spot that popped up with like music? Was it an album cover for somebody? Was it a music video? Like what kind of came first?
I ended up designing a mixtape cover for a DJ. His name is DJ Re-Rock. And at the time, like he was like pretty well known and he was associated with some of like the DJ NVs and all that stuff. And I did an album cover for him, and then he introduced me to a guy, DJ Lonnie B. He's with the Heavy Hitters, which is like Kanye's DJ group.
Okay.
And so I did a logo for him, and then like Skills, like Mad Skills, like at the time he's like known as Mad Skills or Skills.
Yeah.
He writes for like a lot of people. He's a ghostwriter. He does like the wrap up every year.
Yeah.
So I designed a lot of stuff for him, and then it just kind of spiraled out of control from there.
Okay. Well, tell me the first one. What did you do specifically? How did it line? Like, what's the story behind that first one that really got things going?
Okay. Basically, I was at the bar.
Yeah.
And this guy comes up. He's like, "Yeah, man, you want to buy a mixtape?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool." I was like, "Who did the cover?" And he was like, "Why? What's up?" You know, I was like, "Cause it just sucks," you know. And he was like, "What? Like, who are you?" And I'm like, "I mean, I'm nobody, but I'm just someone who can make it look better." And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's all right. Let me show me." You know, so I did it, and then just from there, it just turned into something else.
What did that first one look like? Did you do it all in Photoshop? What kind of look was it?
I did it in Photoshop. I designed the logo. I designed his logo, and then I put it on the album cover, and it was like him standing like on a staircase that I took a photo of. I took his photo standing like on a staircase, and he had on like this New York's Knicks jersey, and and he's just standing there like with the arms open, like, "Hey, what's up? I'm the coolest."
Like a badass.
Yeah, and it's got this logo on the top, and he's like, "Oh man, this shit's tight." So yeah.
Was it one of those things where right away it was like, this is a cool paid opportunity, or was it like, I'm gonna do this for free for this dude, so that way it can kind of go?
I did it for free. I did it for free because I was just like, you know, like I just want to show you that like I can do something dope.
Yeah. I think people, you know what your worth is, right? And some people will be taken advantage of for sure. That's definitely an issue. But when you have an opportunity that's good because it's going to bring you something else, that's more valuable than what the dollar amount for this project may be in certain situations, right? Yeah. So I think wise people, when they see that opportunity, they're like, okay, I'll pounce on that because of what ended up happening from it. So it snowballed. Sounds like really quickly that you just got in with some circles that are like, this could be a career, right? So when was it that it like triggered in your mind, like, okay, this is going to be my career. Like, I think this is going to work out. Was it right after that first one, or did it take a while?
I think it was right after that, because like a lot of people just kept hitting me up. Like, they're like, "Hey man, can you do ours? And I just basically my time just got consumed with executing work for a lot of different people. So I was kind of like forced into it in a sense.
Sure. And this was all still on the East Coast?
Yeah, it was all on the East Coast. Like I didn't think about it like, for the future of it, it's going to be like this or that. I just was like, man, people just keep hiring me to do stuff. And it's like, it's kind of crazy. And then my car broke down, and then I wasn't able to like, pay all the bills. Just because I would do stuff free. Some of it would be paid, some of it was free. It was just a hustle. Yeah. And then I ended up getting a job at Outback Steakhouse as a host. So I was like seating people at the tables and stuff like that. And then
and this was while you were doing all this artwork for all these rappers
while
and stuff?
I was doing the artwork for all the people. And then I was like, man, and then the guy, DJ Lonnie B, one of the heavy hitter guy, he actually came to Outback to eat with his shorty, and like I sat him at the table, and he's looking at me like, "Damn, bro, like you gotta like keep going." And I was like, "Man," so I quit, and I got a job at Capital One, doing financial advising, and so I got a job at Capital One doing that, and then they saw that I could draw. Yeah. And they saw that I was doing, because I would be sitting there like at my desk drawing, and then eventually it got to a point where I'd have like paint in there at my desk, and they're like, "What the hell?" And so, and at the time I wasn't in the art department, so they were like, "Dude, we're gonna get you an interview with the art department." So they got me an interview at the art department, and I interviewed, and the lady was like, "You're so multi-talented." She was like, so she went to the dry erase board and she wrote down all the different, it's like copywriter, graphic design, like digital imaging, like she wrote down everything, like all of it. She was like, "Pick one." It's like, "I'll hire you for anyone, but the thing is, I can hire you for any of them because looking at your portfolio, you can do all of this." She was like, "If I had your talent, you should do your own thing." She was like, "I'll start you tomorrow at 87,000 is what she said. "I'll start you tomorrow at 87K. And she was like, "But if I were you, I would do your own thing." She's like, "But I'll hire you right now."
What'd you choose to do then?
I quit.
Wow.
I quit. I literally put my 2 weeks in the next day.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then what'd you do? You called up your connections with these other people and said, like, okay, my time is valuable. I just could have been making money. I'm trying to do this full time. Like, give me work.
I just put I pretty much just put everything in the overdrive. I made my logo. Like, I just went into more like business sense. So I was like, I'm gonna market myself. So I made my logo, made business cards, I've made flyers. I put them shits like all over the city.
Yeah.
Like, yo, if you need flyers, you need logo, you need websites, like contact me. Like flyers, like I mean to the point where I probably could have technically gotten arrested for like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was like graffiti almost. Like it was I ordered 10,000 flyers and I got rid of every single last one of them.
See, that's what I think a lot of people don't realize. They see these people that have done all this cool stuff and they're like, man, they're so lucky they did this. It's like, dude, the grind, the hustle. I've yet to meet like anyone really that's really successful in their world that like doesn't have a story of how much they hustled to get there.
Yeah.
You know, everyone regardless of how talented you are, you have to be talented as well.
Yeah.
But the hustle is what sets you apart. And a lot of times that's what when other people see that hustle, that's why you get the opportunity.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, if you're going to hustle this hard without working for me, I know you're going to hustle just as hard or more now that I'm going to give you a contract.
Yeah.
You live in such a different world. I can't even imagine like working on projects like that. I mean, I have a lot of friends that work on music videos and stuff. Yeah. Surprisingly, in my zone, there's like a few people that do some pretty big music video work, but I've never even been on set for one. So like the idea of like what that even looks like. I mean, one of my random dumb stupid goals, which you probably know someone, so maybe that'll happen at some point, is I really want to be an extra in a movie.
Oh, that's tight.
I just want to be, and not for any real reason, you know, but I got a lot of tattoos and stuff. I look unique. Maybe I could be the guy who's like at the gas station robbing somebody. I don't know.
I think you could be more than an extra, honestly, man. Just
Dude.
Based on like our conversation. I am a director and I've been on a million sets, man. Honestly, like you'd be one of those people I would be like, yo, man, I need you to do this part real quick. Like, and it happens. I do that shit often.
Dude, I appreciate it. So if that opportunity ever comes up, I feel like I have a personality that would work on screen. So maybe it'll happen. I'm not going to try to like push it, but we'll see what happens. So you tell me about how you moved to LA. How and why? Was it because there was a job that popped up where it was like, I have to be there for this thing? Did you fly out for 1 week, go back home and say, nah, I got to be there? Like what happened?
All right. So this one's kind of interesting. So I came out here to visit one of my close friends. My best friend's cousin lives out here, and like my best friend's cousin, you know, I've known him since he was a kid, you know, like 2 years old kid, and so he had moved out here and we're all close, and he's like, yeah, man, you should come visit. And I'm like, I've never been to California before. Like, all right, cool, I'll come visit. So I came out, hung out with him, it was cool, and then I think the following year he's like, come back, you know, come visit. So I'm like, all right, cool, I'll be out there. So I came out here this time for 2 weeks, and I was staying with him. And he had started doing, like, photography and, like, you know, all that kind of stuff. So he started, I think he started, like, kind of, like, dabbling in music videos. Something. Like, he's a photographer, but he just started messing around with videos or, like, trying to manage them or produce them. Something along those lines. And I was at his place, and, like, this girl comes up and she's like, hey, what's up? You know, and she's talking to me and I'm like, who in the hell? Like, you're cool. Like, she's like, what are you editing? And I'm like, you know, I'm just editing something random for one of my clients on the East Coast. And then the dude that was editing her video, and that girl was actually Aubrey O'Day. That was Aubrey from Danny DeCane. And I didn't know that at the time. But like, and then the dude that was editing, he didn't know how to do something, and he was like, yeah, I don't know how to do whatever. And I was like, oh, you just hit like Control J plus shift something, and they're like, what the hell? And so the guy that was standing there, his name was Alfredo Flores, he was like, yo, what do you do? And I was like, I'm just out here visiting my cousin. You know, I call him my cousin because we're close, we're just close like fam. So I was like, I'm just out here visiting my cousin, you know. I was like, you know, if you need help with anything while I'm out here, just let me know. And he's like, what you doing tomorrow? I was like, dude, I'm chilling. Like, I'm not doing anything, whatever you want. And he's like, all right, meet me at this address tomorrow. And so I go to the address the next day, and like this girl walks in, I got the camera. He's like, yo, bring this camera or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I got my camera, blah, blah. and there was this girl. She walks in. I was like, damn, she's like super bad. Like, who in the world? He's like, yeah, you know, help us like shoot and direct this little video real quick. And I was like, all right, bet, like that works. And I was like, kept staring at her. I'm like, that's Ciara. I'm like, is that Ciara? And I'm like, yes, Ciara. Like, and so we basically like shot and directed this video for Ciara. It's the acoustic video for I Bet. If you go on YouTube, you can see it. And she's like, yo, that guy, yo, I really like how that dude was doing with his camera. But like, he was like killing it, the movements and everything. I need that guy around more. So then like, she just kept hitting me up to like hang out and like film her stuff like while she's in the studio. So I was there in the studio with her while she filmed like her whole project, and I was like basically like co-babysitting little Future.
And you didn't even like have that much experience with a video camera at the time, right?
I did, but like, you know, like I've always been like extra, I guess like extra humble. A lot of people would be like, man, you need to grab your nuts more, bro. Like you're a man. But I'm like, whatever, dude. Like I just do what I enjoy, you know?
Yeah.
So she just kept having me around, but I didn't live here. Yeah. So then I was back on the East Coast because my trip was over, and then I kept getting those phone calls, but I wasn't around. And then like eventually those phone calls stopped because I wasn't around. You know, you can only say no but so many times. And I was like, man. And then I got a call from like somebody where Kanye was working on like a clothing line that he was about to start, like back in, it wasn't like the Yeezy stuff, it was like before then. And they're like, oh man, you know, we would like to maybe have you like do design work. You live in LA? And I was like, no. They're like, damn. So that was over. And then I got a call about directing something for Lady Gaga. And they're like, you in LA? And I was like, I can be there tomorrow. And they're like, we need you here now. And I was like, fuck. So lost that one. So I was like, man, let me go out here, dude. Like, so I just came out here. And then to this day, me and Alfredo are still super cool. Like, he still does that thing where he's like, yo, meet me at this address. And I'm like, why am I at Ariana Grande's house? Like, this is weird. You know, like, I'm like, she looks familiar, you know? Like, yeah. So, like,
dude, yeah, I mean, it's about getting in those circles, but the universe obviously told you something of like, yeah, you got to be here. You're going to be missing opportunities. Yeah. And that's why I think, you know, not very many people are in that exact situation, but that's why people chase it out here, right? Yeah. Is they're like, well, maybe if I'm out here, I'm going to get these opportunities. Yeah. Thankfully, it happened to you relatively early on. Yeah. So that developed into you working on huge projects. I mean, right away, it's like kind of working on big projects, but you worked with, right, like Travis Barker. You did that JoJo Siwa video that was like massive.
Boomerang.
Yeah, Boomerang.
Yeah, I directed that video.
How did that come up for being? Because it's not like looking at you, I just picture you working with like Ciara or somebody else or like that kind of genre of music. Kid stuff. I mean, granted, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of money and plenty of visibility that goes in there. I just don't picture you kicking it with JoJo Siwa on set.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess it kind of loops back to the thing of like the challenge. Yeah. Like I heard the song and like I was like, what in the world? Like this isn't what I'm used to. Yeah. I was like, but it presented a challenge and I was like, I bet you I can body this. I bet you I can make this song like pop, like visually. And then so I did.
Did you hit up her management or they hit you up?
No, so basically the production company was like, hey man, here's this song, you know what I mean? Like, can you want to direct it? And I think by then I had already been flown out. I had been flown out to LA to direct something for Kendall Vertez, which was like one of the Dance Moms girls at the time. So, okay, so yeah, that's how it worked. So it was like Kendall Vertez, it was like the Dance Mom chick, and like my homegirl Dee was as a makeup artist, and she was like one of the first people I met when I was on those visits to LA. So I would every time I came back, I would hang out. I'm like, yo, Dee, yo. She's to this day, she's like my sister. You know what I mean? So like, she's the homie. It's like she's just the best, yo. She's always like, I mean, I'm too rich for this. She's like, I don't mean like money wise. I just mean my value. I'm just too rich for this. That's her shit. I want to make her some shirts that say that. But anyway, like, yeah. So like, I came out. And they were like, yeah, you're going to direct this thing for Kendall Vertez. It's going to be on Dance Moms, the show. And then, you know, this lady, Abby Lee, and she's going to come out there and blah, blah, blah. I have no idea who any of these people are, but I just want to make a vision, you know. So I did that video, and then they liked that video, and they loved that junk. And it was like in a helicopter, had like a Rolls Royce helicopter in the video, and some other sales tight. And then, but Abby Lee was like, "Oh man, that's the shit." And so then, so I guess JoJo was like, "Oh, we're going to make a JoJo song now since Kendall made one." And then they made the JoJo song. The song was like, you know, like I said, it wasn't something I was used to, you know,
Sure.
but the challenge presented itself, and I was like, I'm here to take that shit on. So like, let's see what happens. I did it, and I have like plaques for that music video, which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that thing went insane.
Yeah.
So how does it get bigger than that? Like, what do you want when you get to that point? You just feel like, well, I guess I'm at the top. Like, what do you, I mean, where does the mindset go? What do you try to work on from there? Do you use that as leverage to work with other people you want to work with? Or how does it, like, where does your career go from that point?
I never even looked at it as like a thing where it's like I felt like I was on top. It just felt like, for me, I was on the top of a particular moment.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I kind of live my life in like 30-minute intervals, you know? So like, literally, I can do something monumental right now, which I am. Thank you for having me here.
I appreciate
but, like,
that.
you know, like, and then literally an hour from now, I'm like, all right, cool. Like, let's see, like, what's going to happen next? And I'm not looking for it to be bigger or smaller than what I just did. I'm just looking for another challenge.
Yeah.
You know, so, like...
Well, and I think keeping that attitude keeps it interesting, keeps it fresh. That's what brings other opportunities. You're not necessarily just turning things away because you're like, well, I've worked with bigger people.
Yeah.
You can just work on projects that, you know, spark you.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
I want to work on this kind of project.
Yeah. I've done so much stuff just like free, like, you know, like I'll do stuff. Well, I mean, not as much anymore because my manager won't let me. But like, but yeah, like, you know, like sometimes I feel like I would pay to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So sometimes like free to me doesn't calculate as like free. Sometimes it's like I feel like I'm just paying. Like I'll pay to do that. Like if, you know, say like Ariana Grande or say like, you know, whoever is your favorite childhood hero wants you to do something, you're like, shit, I would pay to do that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not free. Like, you know, if I have the time or if you have a little savings or something and it's not going to kill you, then do it. It might fulfill you, make you happy.
Well, and that's why you went on this whole journey in the first place, because you want to do this thing. You didn't do it. Most people doing things they're passionate about, it's not for the money.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to make a living. I get it. But the reason that you're like, I want to put in all this work is because you're dreaming of being in these scenarios.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was interviewing this bass player, Ian Martin Allison, one of my favorite episodes ever. Dude's the man. He's traveled all over the world playing, and he's incredible. But one of the things that he said is like the saying that he lives by, and I'm messing up this wording, but whatever. The thing that he lives by is when he thinks things are cool. He's like, that's it.
Yeah.
He's like, if I see an opportunity and I get that welling sense within me that just goes, cool.
Yeah.
I just do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, and you'd be surprised how often that has led to paid projects.
Yeah.
That's led to working with the right kind of people, to me making my best quality of work. Like, just go with what feels cool.
Yeah. I mean, the Ciara thing, like, I didn't even know it was Ciara. It was just like, oh, man, I'm in LA and I get to go do something. Like, I'll just do it. Like, I don't care. The money part is cool. Like, now, even till today, like, when I get paid, which is pretty much for everything, like, you know, like, it's basically just icing. Because, like, I like to only like to take on projects that I actually am interested in really doing versus, like, how much it pays.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's awesome when you can get to the point where you can be financially free to just create. You don't have to take contracts exclusively because of the money. You know what I mean? If you can get to that point, that's the point everyone else has been dreaming to get to. So congratulations on getting to that shit.
Thank you.
Let's talk about this. Is it, you call it an agency? I mean, what did you just create?
So basically, it's pretty much an agency. Like, it's like a one stop for like all of your needs, all your visual needs. So it's called a Sleeping Giant, and the Sleeping Giant, if you look it up, it's basically for like that unlocked talent, and I've always been like very humble in the past and like very low key, and like, I have a lot of people rooting for me, and sometimes you just get tired of people saying like, oh man, you're so great, like, and you can be so much greater, like you're there and it's crazy and I can't wait. And so to me, I just felt like a sleeping giant. Sure. And it's like, and now the giant is waking up and just doing more and like showing myself more, even just like on social media, and just kind of like It's for branding, it's for marketing, like, and sometimes in the world that we live in now, sometimes you have to show people like what you're capable of and not just like doing it,
Yeah.
So I just want to show people a little bit like how smart I actually am.
Sure.
Like, and for me to even say that, like, that's bold, you know what I mean? But I'm smart and I'm showing people like what I can do. And so I'm just putting things into another gear right now, and like the giant is waking up. But that's a fear of a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a line you gotta walk of cockiness and confidence,
Yeah.
right? And unfortunately, even if you think you're walking it right, there's gonna be people out there that are like, nah, he's just cocky.
Yeah.
Whatever, man. Like, you
Yeah.
can't please everybody. That's just not how it's gonna work. But I
Yeah.
always say, like, I meet a lot of artists, and I'm sure you've been the same way. You've met a lot of talented people that go nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's because they're not willing to tell people about their work.
Yeah.
They're like, well, if I'm cool and what I do is cool, people are just gonna find out. It's
Yeah.
like, man, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't.
You got to get it in front of them.
Yeah.
It does have to be cool.
Yeah, for
but,
sure.
like, they also have to see it in the first place. The biggest artists in the world still, like, have their faces on billboards. They're still advertising themselves. Like, you have to put it out there for people to see it in the first place. So I'm glad that you're finally deciding, like, you know what? I'm just going to tell the world. Like, look at what I can do. Man, being able to just work with your friends, like, that alone is such a valuable thing, because then all of a sudden it doesn't even feel like work. Like, it is work, but it doesn't even feel like work anymore, which is one of the awesome things about what we do. Is like, we're always running and doing shit, but we're running and doing shit most people would love to do or would pay to do. I just worked this music festival, and I got to be back with artists the entire time, like free beer and all this stuff, like kicking it. The bathrooms outside, we're in like this big RV that were like AC and stuff at this folk fest, whatever. And I'm back there, and it like kind of clicks with me. I'm like, damn, somebody else would pay a lot of money to be able to be backstage like this and have one-on-one conversations with all of the artists. And I'm just like kicking it. Hell yeah. What was one of the first experiences you had of like working with somebody that you had like put on a pedestal, like you really wanted to meet?
Oh man. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna shorten this story as best as I possibly can. So I went to like this festival, right?
Yeah.
And like I ended up backstage because at the time, like one of my homies was a manager for like the Roots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he, or not the manager of the Roots, but he was manager of one of the members of the Roots crew.
Okay.
So like, you know how it's like the Roots and then the Roots crew, which is like Polo and then Polo Sport.
Sure.
So like, so he was part of the Roots crew. And so we were at this festival in Philadelphia, and like it was like all these people, and I remember almost like running straight into Ryan Leslie, and I was like, oh shit, you're Ryan Leslie, and he just started laughing at me. I was like, that's crazy. But like there was a performance that was going on, and then like the dude, he jumps off the stage and he's coming through the crowd, and everyone's like scared of him because he's known as the Broad Street Bully, you know what I'm saying? Beanie Segil. And at the time, he was one of my favorite, like, he was just one of my favorite artists as a kid. I'm like, I'm listening to Rockefeller Records, and like he's Jay-Z's like muscle, you know what I mean? Like he's like Jay-Z's street cred at the time. And like, so no one was like talking to him. Everyone was like scared to talk to him. And like, I just saw him and I was like, yo, Beans. And he's like, he just stopped. And I was like, yo, you a Pisces. and because I knew that he stopped and was like, yo, word? What are you? And then I was like, I'm a Pisces. And he was like, when's your birthday? And I was like, March 5th. He was like, yo. And his is like the 6th.
Yeah.
And he was like, yo, take my number. And then I ended up doing a music video for him. And that was the first big music video I ever did with a major. And that song happened to have been Travis Barker's song that Beanie Segil was featured on. So like that was like my introduction to like music video world, like major music videos, where I was getting like, working with labels and stuff. So, and then that's why I met Travis, and then that's why Travis had me do like more stuff for him. I've done videos for his kids. And like,
the universe wanted that to happen.
Shit was crazy,
dude. I think so many people are afraid to even like throw the door open. And you never know when something's gonna happen. If you leave yourself open like that, where you're like, oh, what's the worst he's gonna do, ignore me? Like then opportunities pop up, but a lot of people never even like would try. So the fact you did, and then the fact it worked out is like almost feels like destiny. What's the name of that music video? Where do we go find it?
Just Chill.
Dude, we're just chilling now, but I'm gonna be just chilling right after this and checking that out.
Yeah, it's called Just Chill.
So what's kind of next? Like you made this agency, but what are you trying to do next?
Basically just continue on my journey, man. Like
Keep making music videos, or do you want to do
all of the above? I actually I'm always making music videos.
Yeah.
I've dove heavy into photography.
Yeah.
So that's a thing now. Like,
you trying to do like shoots for people and then have those be like cover shots for mags and stuff?
You
Or,
know, like I was actually just talking to a friend of mine, and like the dream, what it used to be, like as far as like, oh man, if you get like a Vogue cover, then it's like awesome.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think we're calibrated in that way anymore. Like I like working with like whomever and individuals and taking photos. If I do a Vogue cover, cool. Like I just did one of my bigger shoots for Forbes, which was like just a few, like 2 months ago, something like that.
Sure.
A month or two. Yeah.
What was the shoot for Forbes?
It was for Capitol. It was like Capitol House. It was like these Instagrammers, and they
Cool.
just made it into Forbes, and they needed a photo shoot for the magazine. So
How many photos were in there? Of yours?
Two
Two
or three. Yeah.
You kept one of those magazines, I assume?
Nah, I didn't.
What?
I'm terrible with these things, bro. Like I'm telling you,
Sure,
my
sure.
manager's always on my head. She's like, dude, you need to like
That's
keep your
something worth
stuff
keeping.
and harvest stuff. But yeah, like I said, I live in 30-minute intervals,
Sure.
so something that's dope like now, it'll forever be dope. But
Well, and it's an evolving industry. I mean, what you're just saying, getting right back to it, is that like, dude, being in print on a magazine used to be, that's what everyone saw. People don't see it the same way, man.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
anymore.
It's-
You know,
it's
like
not the same.
some people that I tell my show when I'm talking to them and they're like, dude, you're on the radio?
yeah,
And then other people are like, who listens to the radio? Because, it's an evolving
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
Things are changing or whatever.
Yeah.
So nowadays, if you take a good photo with the right person on social media,
Yeah.
it could easily be seen by way more people than if it's in a magazine.
like Mikaila, like
Right.
like I do content for Mikaila, which
Yeah.
you've
Yeah,
interviewed
Mikaila
or
Murphy,
you're
Mikaila
gonna
Dancer on the
interview.
Instagram, and she was on the show, and she's a sweetheart. She's from the Midwest as well. She's from Michigan, so
Yeah.
shouts to her. She's the coolest, and she's the reason that I ended up meeting you. So
Yeah, yeah.
hell yeah.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
up, Mikaila?
What's up, Mikaila? Yeah, so like, like doing stuff like that gets seen by a lot of people, and I have like so much freedom in like creating like the artwork in general. Like it's dope, and she photographs amazing, along with like a lot of other people I work with. But I really like working with her like a lot because we just have like a really cool chemistry visually. It's a vibe.
Yeah, and she just has the right vibe. She's like always happy and in a good mood. I'm sure she takes
Always.
things plenty seriously, but she's like, I feel like hard to make mad. I don't know. I've only had really positive experiences with her. So when you do a photo shoot, how many people are involved? Do you do the makeup? Do you do the set? Do you do the like, what parts do you do? Do you just show up, they're all ready for you and click?
I shoot. I like to shoot. There's a lot of photographers that like to just hold the camera and then have other people like do the lights. But I like lighting because I like to understand like all of that stuff because it presents a challenge once again.
Sure.
But then I can like manage like, okay, like people to move the lights here and there and turn it up and down, blah, blah. But
And then they usually have a stylist and a makeup artist.
Yeah.
Like, how many people typically would be involved with one shoot?
it depends on the shoot, but max maybe like 6 or 7 max.
So it's pretty
like
small.
sometimes it'll be like hairstylist, a makeup artist, a stylist in general, an assistant or two, and sometimes like the agency might be there, whomever else, which is
Do you usually try to get more than one talent there at the same time so you can kind of like do a bunch all at once? Because I mean, a lot of those influencers and stuff, like they're in big almost content houses, even if they're like apartment buildings, like Courtney, Mikaila, like a bunch. I'm sure there's quite a few.
Yeah,
Do you usually
yeah.
kind of get together with a bunch of them, or is it kind of a one person thing?
I prefer like working with one
Yeah.
person at a time. Like if I have like 3 hours or however many hours, or 4 or 5, whatever, blocked off. I like to focus, you know what I mean? Like I like to treat each person like as an individual, and we have our moment, and then the next day I can have a moment,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But like I like to be able to like really hone in with whomever I'm working with for that day.
Hell yeah, treat them like royalty, because they are,
Yeah,
right? That's rad. I think that's how you
yeah.
get the best work out of both parties.
Yeah, we all are. We're all
That's
like
what I'm saying.
royalty, so it's cool when you can like just like us right now. Like imagine if somebody was like over there sitting in the chair, like waiting for their interview, like, you know what I mean? It'd be odd. So like with the fact that we can just sit here and kick it is dope. I really appreciate, like I said, being here and like the whole vibe. You're cool as fuck.
I appreciate that. The mutual respect, man. Like when you can sit here and honestly, like I just love what I do because I do something I'm really passionate about. Anytime somebody asks me about it, I get all juiced and I'm like, I want to tell you why I'm on the city thing, because I'm on the Parks and Waterways Commission with my city, so I do a bunch of like city work as well. But if you bring up to me like, what do you do for fundraising? I could go on forever. Like, how did you, dude? I get excited about it. So then when I get to interview somebody, you know, about something that they care about, we get to have these really cool conversations. Because like if you think about it, how many people do you really sit for like an hour and a half and have a really in-depth conversation about your career with? Your friends and family don't have the same perspective. Nothing against them, but it's just a different kind of conversation.
They don't get it. It's
right,
not the
so
same.
you don't dive deep like this. I mean, I've found when I'm traveling and stuff, just sitting at a bar and I end up meeting some other entrepreneur or whatever, I'm sitting there and I'm like, all of a sudden 3 hours is gone, and I'm like, damn, that was dope, dude. So the fact that I kind of do this semi-professionally, I should say professionally. It is professional.
Like you're in there.
I know. I'm like,
you got logos everywhere. Your chain is fly. Come on, bro.
Dude. I'm saying I interviewed this Packers player a couple weeks back, and I'm like a huge Packers fan. I grew up, Wisconsin green and gold. You know what I'm saying? And at the end, I was like, man, this is kind of like a little mini dream, kind of come true. And then I caught myself, and I'm like, why am I like downplaying this? Look at this dope. I just drove over to Lambeau and like hanging out with a Packers player professionally doing this. Hell yeah, this is rad. Speaking of like dope moments, when you do stuff that you care about, and you've already shared a few, but you got limitless stories, I'm sure. When you do things you care about, you get to have a lot of really unique experiences that are really meaningful to you. You know, you'll remember them the rest of your life. What's another story of something that happened to you that you're really grateful for, but it only happened because you chose this path?
Last week, actually, I think it was last week.
It was
30 minutes ago. So basically Millennium, which is a dance studio, because I work with like a ton of dancers, like, you know, and I started where I was just in an environment, and like my boy Guy Groove, he's a crazy choreographer. He's worked with like a ton of people. He does Disney and all kinds of wild stuff. But like I was over with Abby Lee, and like this guy, you know, he pulls up on the motorcycle, we're talking, and like, you know, like ended up basically he's a dancer, and he's like, yo, can you film my class? I'm doing this dance class. And I'm like, I've never done that before. He's like, well, you have a camera, just stand in front of the class. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll do that, whatever. I was getting ready to leave, but it's cool. It looks like fun. I like watching people dance. That's fly. So I did that, and for him I did like 2 or 3, and then I was over there with that group pretty much at a different dance studio, because like Sony had me doing something with them, with the group pretty much. And then Matt Stefanina was like teaching to one of their songs, and then and I was standing there with a camera, and the guy that he originally had filming his stuff for him overslept.
Whoops.
Which is crazy. On a day where Sony contracted him to do a project. And so he's like, yo, man, can you film this class? And I was like, I don't really do this, bro, but like, you know, whatever. Because I always keep a camera on me, because like, you know, I could do the whole phone thing, but I like cameras, like
of course.
the big body jump. And so like I filmed that joint, and then Matt's like, bro, or, you know, you want to do more? And I'm like, yeah, sure, like why not? Let's see what happens. Like it sounds like it could be fun. So like those two decisions basically made me like one of the bigger videographers for dance, and like creative directors with dance. So I work with like a ton of dancers, and I used to work with a shit ton, but now I've like limited it down where I work with like Ditto and like Future Kings, Matt Stefanina, Bailey Side. Like like Instagram has hired me to do like dance videos. Sony has hired me to do dance videos. And just last week or something like that, like Netflix hired me to do dance with Millennium Dance Studio, which is like the most popular, the biggest dance studio in the world. And the owner of the studio hit me up and was like, Monsee, I know you don't do just anything. Will you do this project? It's like Netflix and JLo. So they were like, you know, we want to basically, we're doing like this whole dance thing to promote JLo's new documentary, Halftime. So like because of those previous decisions, it put me in a position where I was basically like the visual person to create these dance projects with, like, to promote JLo halftime.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine. I mean, really, I do envision myself within a fairly short period of time interviewing people like JLo. I don't feel like I'm that crazy far off, but like reaching those types of peaks, that's when you really got to stop, look around and enjoy the damn view. Because, I mean, hopefully you'll have a bunch more legendary moments like that, but like, I can't even imagine how cool that's going to be feeling when that hits Netflix. Because is that out yet?
Yeah, it's like, so it's not going to hit Netflix. The documentary is on Netflix.
Oh, sure. This is the promo
This is all of the promo, like, regarding dance, because J-Lo comes from a dance background.
Yeah.
So they wanted to do pieces, like, geared around J-Lo's dance background, working with some of the bigger dancers in the country. So I actually, you know, like, working with J-Lo's actual choreographer, which, you know, she's currently, like, choreographing, like, BTS's whole tour.
Sure.
And, like, so she's like a boss, and she was like, yo, you're dope, like, let me get your number, like, it's fly, you know, like, those type of things. It's just like those little decisions. And, like, you know, filming Guy Groove's class, I did, you know, it was free.
Yeah.
I did it for free. I was just standing around chilling anyway, so I was like, whatever, let's do it. Matt Stephanie in a joint, it was free. It was just, fuck it, whatever, it's fun.
Yeah.
I'm here.
It's leaving the door open, and again, when you feel something where you're like, yeah, that could be cool.
Yeah, I was like, all right, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, you never know how far that's going to go.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much for coming over here. This sharing these stories. I did not know what I was in for today because this was set up relatively last second, and I'm so glad that we ended up being able to make it work with our schedules. I appreciate you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.